Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Financial Tides. I'm your host today, Taylor Perillo, certified financial planner. And today we're going to dive into the topic that I think everyone listening to this and pretty much everyone out there has at least one of, and that's the subscription economy and how it affects your wallet overall. So, we're going to talk about subscriptions because they became a lot more common and are now practically invisible. There's everything from streaming platforms, fitness apps, grocery deliveries, and the subscription business model is pretty much now embedded everywhere in our daily lives. So, subscriptions do promise convenience. They promise savings and simplicity, but they're often quietly draining people's money and we're not even realizing it. So, we're going to take a deep dive into the subscription economy, what it is, why it works, kind of the psychological traps that are behind it, and how you can take back control of your monthly cash flow. So, to start, where did it come from? How did it take over the economy? What is the shift? And the shift really is the change from the ownership side of buying something, owning it outright, to now paying for access. So if you think about that, you're not buying a DVD anymore and putting it in your DVD player whenever you want. You're paying for access to a library of movies. So that's kind of the big picture of it and what we're going to be talking about and kind of how that shift happened. So over the last decade, pretty much every company, starting with the streaming services, I think was kind of the prevalent one, have shifted from being that one-time purchase to a reoccurring revenue source. So again, we're now renting the access instead of buying the actual thing. So companies love this business model for a bunch of reasons. It makes a ton of sense. First one, you're having a predictable and stable monthly revenue. You know what you're going to get, you know how much you charge, you know how many subscribers you have, and every single month, month over month, that money comes in. And with this, it's easier to scale and forecast because you say, hey, if we can grow our subscriber base, we now know exactly how much more money and more revenue we'll have. So you can predict exactly what that revenue is. And as you grow and your subscribers grow, you can use that money very efficiently and very predictably because you know what's coming in. Customers will stay longer without realizing it. Just again, it's subscription, it's automated. We'll go into that a little more detail. So people will often continue to pay even if they're not using it. And that's why auto renews, creating kind of a passive income for these companies. You're able to have that reoccurring revenue coming in passively. You're not really working any harder to get that revenue stream. The cost of acquisition is the one thing that you really have to do is once you have that person subscribed, they're pretty likely to stay subscribed. And you can keep them subscribed in a number of ways too if they're thinking about canceling. So it's not just companies that love it. We fell in love with it too. And I think the number of reasons that people fell in love with it and became okay with this idea of renting access is first and foremost, it was a low monthly cost. It feels a lot more attainable. It's kind of like leasing a car. You don't have to pay for it all up front. You can pay for it in smaller, more palatable monthly chunks. It's convenient. Everything can be delivered automatically. It can create automation. One of the things we always say is we want to buy back our time. Our time is our most valuable resource. And if you don't have to go online and reorder something every single time you want it, and you can just subscribe to have it show up at your door, that makes a lot of sense for people that are trying to buy back some time. And then lastly is just the flexibility to cancel. If you ever don't want it and don't need it, you can go and cancel it at any time. So you're only paying while you're using it. So this is good in theory if it's applied correctly. So when you think about kind of the differences and where this generation versus previous generations came from, in the past, people paid for cable, maybe, gym membership, a magazine, maybe. Now 20 and 30-year-olds or something regular, having six streaming services, a couple different fitness subscriptions, whether it's a gym membership and a couple apps, a running app, food or home product boxes, so things shipped straight to your door on a regular basis, software subscriptions to operate their computers, cloud storages, because of course that if you have something on a phone, you're not going to want to lose it. And if you don't want to lose it, you got to back it up somewhere. So you pay more for that. And then car features. You could activate different packages. I know there's a couple car brands out there specifically that offer services that you could only access via subscription. So it's pretty much everywhere. It's in all walks of life. It's not one or two things anymore. It's pretty much everywhere. So they're not occasional. They're throughout your life, and you may have not even realized how many areas of your life they've crept into. So, love subscriptions, not saying not to do them, but there is a real issue with them. And the real issue is that the invisibility of them and the convenience can sometimes, if not handled properly, lead to overspending. So subscriptions thrive because they remove the friction. There's no thinking, there's no swiping, no reevaluating or awareness of what you're actually spending. It's just once you do it once and you set it up, you have to be the one to initiate going in there to turn it off. You're not thinking on a daily basis or going to the grocery line and swiping a card and saying, hey, I want this again. So you may not be reevaluating if it's actually providing you value as often as you really should. So you forget when you sign up for something, it's a small charge and you don't really think about it. When it hits your credit card, it's not like your credit card spikes or your bank account. It doesn't spike the payment the next day. And you look at it and you say, it's only $9.99. Not that big of a deal. I'll keep it for another month. But then you're forgetting that we don't have just one thing that's $9.99. We have 20 things that are in a range of maybe 99 cents all the way up to $20. And when you forget about it and you times that out over a full year, 20 different things, averaging maybe 9.99, it ends up being a lot of money. And the average person is spending about $200 to $400 a month on subscription services. And if you ask someone how much they're spending on subscription services, most people will actually underestimate their actual spending by over 200%. So that just tells us this is invisible. People aren't fully aware, and it's created kind of a disconnect between people's finances and reality. So they create a quiet, steady leak in your budget if this is happening, and it doesn't feel like it's spending, even though it most certainly is. And that's just because you're not actually swiping, clicking, checking out to actually do it every time. So you may say, hey, simple enough. Let's just unsubscribe from the things we don't use. But here's the reason why people stay subscribed still, the psychological kind of reasons that we don't just go in and turn off these subscription or unsubscribe. And that's because the models are completely designed about behavioral science. They have people that have studied this, and it's the reason they do it, and it's the reason they're good at marketing. And these companies are successful, but they use something like the small number effect. It doesn't feel harmful when you're only spending $8.99 on something. But when you times that out, $8.99, 12 months, 5 to 10 services, you're starting to look at a bigger number now. And that big number could be a big number that affects your budget over the course of a year. But it doesn't feel like it when you're only seeing $8.99. So that's the first psychological thing is it's a small number. The next is the free trial hook. So, free trial, you feel like you're not paying for anything, it removes all the friction. You sign up, you start using the service, and you forget in a week or a month or however long the trial is that you have to cancel that subscription. It might be one of those specifically that if as soon as you cancel, you lose access to it in the free trial period. So basically, if you want to use it for an entire month and then cancel it, you have to remember once you're done using it to go turn that off. And then once you start paying, you're in the habit of paying it and you just continue to say, hey, it's okay. I used it last month. I'm continuing to use it this month because you keep using it because you want to try to get the value out of it. So you don't stop using it and just turn it off instantly and stop that hole and plug that hole in your bucket that it's leaking. So people tend to get hooked with the free trial and forget to turn it off and keep paying for it month over month. And then just lastly, it's auto renew. So unless you go in and actively choose to stop the spending, it's not feeling like spending and it's just passively coming out of your account, which makes it more friction to actually have to do something about it, rather than doing nothing, which is the easy thing. So people tend to do nothing if there's friction to doing it, and going in and going down the rabbit hole of finding out where to cancel and how to turn it off tends to feel hard and time consuming, and people end up just not doing it. So, what are the financial consequences? Obviously, being a financial advisor and financial planner, we're here to talk about how subscriptions can erode the long-term wealth. So, it seems like just a few dollars a month, but again, it isn't. Reoccurring charges will block your long-term monthly goals and your long-term money goals. So if you have $200 each month in subscriptions, which we said is the low end of the average, let's just think about that. Okay? Over the course of the year, that's $2,400. So now let's think about it. Instead of subscribing to a service, if you subscribe to investing, you're going to put that $200 a month into an account and grow it instead of going into a service that you may or may not be using. So you invest that money at an 8%, we'll call 8% a rough number for a long-term investment over 10 years. That's $36,000. Okay? And you may say, okay, that's a good amount of money. 36, but it's really not that much if I'm using the service. It's still a car payment, so it's definitely still a lot. But let's talk about it now with the compounding. So we know the first 10 years isn't going to make as much as the following 10 years and the 10 years after that. So let's go out to 30 years. We do that same thing, that's $300,000, which is a home payment, a down payment on the home, a college fund, money to launch a business, or an earlier retirement. So all of this, you may think it's only a small impact, but with the compounding effect, especially for those of you in your 20s, 30s, and earlier on, it can really add up. And every dollar that you keep now is going to be working dramatically harder for your future self. So it's crucially important to understand what you're using and how to really get a grip on it. So, how do you get a grip on it? That's the big point here. The first thing you need to do is just do a subscription audit. It's a little bit of a pain to do, and again, it's the friction that's required to make sure you're doing the right things. But you start by pulling your bank account, credit card statement, and look for anything that's coming up on a reoccurring or a monthly. There's some credit card companies that'll show you it outright. There's different budgeting tools that'll show you it outright. And it'll tell you basically everything that's on auto renew, any memberships, or any app store charges. And then you have to just know what's there first. So that's the important thing, is understand what you're spending and why you're spending it, and then ask yourself of what you actually use consistently. And not just what you use consistently, but does it genuinely improve your life by using it? You have the option, and this is one of the things I love. There's certain shows, say around Christmas time, Christmas time's coming. Certain shows and movies are great on certain subscription services. If you love it and you have that subscription service because you love those Christmas movies and love those Christmas shows, that might not mean you need to keep it year round. So you can rotate it seasonally. If you have a show that you really love, I'm a huge fan of certain shows. I might only have that subscription for when that show is actively airing and not year round. There's probably, when I think about it, two or three shows on each different streaming service that I actually consistently watch. And what I'll do is I'll wait until a couple of them are fully aired and fully out, and I'll get that service for a month or two. I'll watch those shows, and when I'm done watching those shows, I'll cancel that subscription. So you still get the same thing, but you don't have to have the service year round, and that can save some money over the course of time. So make sure you're only keeping what you actively love and you're actively using. Cancel what doesn't add any value to you, and then rotate whatever subscriptions you need to seasonally so you're not paying for them year round. So I think that's the best way to handle it. Get a grasp on what you have and what you're spending, and awareness is the first step in making changes towards the future. So check out your subscriptions. We're here to help. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. If not, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Financial Tides, and we'll catch you on the next one.
John Perillo and Taylor Perillo are financial advisors offering securities through Cetera Advisors LLC, a registered broker-dealer, doing insurance business in California as CFGA Insurance Agency LLC, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cetera Investment Advisors LLC, a registered investment advisor. Cetera firms are under separate ownerships from any other named entity. California insurance licenses number 0F60123 and 0M90666, 6265 Greenwich Drive, Suite 251, San Diego, California 92122. The views depicted in this material are for information purposes only and are not necessarily those of Cetera Advisors LLC. They should not be considered specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Neither Cetera Advisors LLC nor any of its representatives may give legal or tax advice.